का ये 66 एपिसोड है। आप सभी मित्रों का हार्दिक स्वागत, अभिनंदन। आज की वेबिनार को प्रारंभ करें इसके पूर्व मैं इस वेबिनार की आयोजन सचिव डॉक्टर उषा साहनी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि वे सरस्वती वंदना और अपने प्रारंभिक स्वागत उद्बोधन के साथ आज की इस वेबिनार को शुरू करें। डॉक्टर साहनी वर्तमान में मेरठ के शहीद मंगल पांडे पीजी गर्ल्स कॉलेज में अंग्रेजी विभाग की व्याख्याता हैं। स्वयं एक कवयित्री और कथाकार के रूप में पिछले कुछ वर्षों से निरंतर सृजन कर्म से जुड़ी हुई है। आपके 3 काव्य संग्रह और एक कथा संग्रह प्रकाशित हो चुका है। आपका एरिया ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन शेक्सपियर के नाटकों पर केंद्रित है। मैं डॉक्टर साहनी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि वह आज के इस वेबिनार का प्रारंभ सरस्वती वंदना के माध्यम से करें। डॉक्टर साहनी।
आभार सर। या कुंदेन्दु तुषार या शुभ्रवस्त्र या वीणा वरदंड मंडित करा या श्वेत पद्मासना या श्वेत पद्मासना या श्वेत पद्मासना। माँ शारदे के श्री चरणों में 4 पंक्तियां प्रस्तुत कर इस वेबिनार का शुभारंभ करने की इजाजत चाहती हूँ प्रोफेसर संजीव भानावत जी से। It's actually once again a very wonderful association with IIMT Denkanel that we have done, and the webinar that we are going to discuss the topic upon is partition films and literature. We are fortunate to have this association once again, and this time Ms. Bhavna Acharya, Assistant Professor IIMT Denkanel, is the one who is actually here with us as the co-convener of this webinar. This is the 66th webinar of our webinar series, which we are running under the umbrella of Communication Today, media bilingual journal, both the languages, of course, Hindi and English as well. And the credit goes to Professor Sanjeev Bhanawat to run this Communication Today, the media journal, for such a long duration. Already we are about to complete 26 years of this journal. And undoubtedly, Professor Bhanawat is the one who has given such a wonderful platform to the researchers, the students, the academicians, the practitioners, and the people who are there in the fraternity of media education to come up with the ideas and thoughts in the written format and get them published in this reputed journal. Also, we have done all these webinars, and more than 200 eminent speakers have been here on this platform to enlighten the participants with their intellectual ideas and thoughts. Today, we have 3 speakers that those are going to discuss about this topic. One is Dr. Piyush Roy, and he is an author. He's also a critique. That means he's an expert in his own field, because a critique has to have a very, very particular kind of expertise to comment upon something. He's a filmmaker as well as Dean School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, RV University, Bangalore. We have amongst us Professor Mrinal Chatterjee, who has already decorated this platform, this virtual platform, in number of times with us, and we always have gathered a lot of knowledge and information from his talks that he has delivered. Professor Mrinal Chatterjee is the Regional Director, IIMT, Denkanel, Odisha. And also we have Dr. Shoma A. Chatterjee, film writer, critique, and freelancer, journalist from Kolkata. So we are fortunate that once again we are there on this virtual platform. We can see each and every face through these small windows, and definitely we'll be getting more enlightenment on the topic of today that the webinar is based upon. Communication Today is doing a wonderful job along with coming up with special issues on various important topics that comes from media's dimensions. So I thank Professor Sanjeev Bhanawat to start this webinar series. It was started on 2nd of October 2020. And till date, we are running this webinar so successfully. And the strongest pillar behind this webinar series is Professor Sanjeev Bhanawat, under whose guidance me and Prithvi, the faculty of IMT University here in Meerut, plus to that, she's a research scholar of Bhanawat sir. We are fortunate that we are learning a lot under his supervision. And of course, technically also, we are becoming a little stronger with this webinar series, this trial, and which is successfully running. And to proceed further, I would like to call upon Professor Sanjeev Bhanawat to introduce the topic of today. Thank you so much, sir. Most welcome.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर सहानी। जैसा कि आप सभी को विदित है, आज का यह आयोजन इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मास कम्युनिकेशन की ढंकानल शाखा के संयुक्त तत्वावधान में आयोजित किया जा रहा है। और इस पूरे आयोजन की रूपरेखा को तैयार करने में मुझे प्रोफेसर मृणाल चटर्जी का महत्वपूर्ण सहयोग मिला है। संयोग से आज हमारे जो तीनों विशेषज्ञ हैं, उनका मीडिया और फिल्म दोनों ही क्षेत्रों में बहुत ही लंबा अनुभव रहा है। वस्तुतः ये जो विषय है वो अपने आप में बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण विषय है। 1947 का जो दौर था वो शायद मानवीय इतिहास में मानव निर्मित एक ऐसी आपदा थी जिससे बहुत ही भयावह अनुभव उस समय की जो पीढ़ी थी उसने महसूस किया। एक देश के दो टुकड़े कर दिए गए। दोनों देशों में निवास कर रहे वो व्यक्ति, उन्हें अपनी मूल जगह छोड़नी पड़ी। आप कल्पना कीजिए उन व्यक्तियों की, उनकी संवेदनाओं की, उनके एहसासों की, कि उन्हें एक ऐसे स्थान की ओर जाने के लिए मजबूर होना पड़ा जिसके बारे में उन्हें कुछ नहीं पता। वो जगह उन्होंने कभी देखी नहीं, कभी कल्पना तक नहीं की क्या भविष्य होगा अपने मित्रों को, अपने परिजनों को। और इसी के साथ साथ एक सांप्रदायिक विद्वेष की अग्नि में ये देश जलने लगा। सर्वत्र लाशों के ढेर, किस तरह से जो हम सुनते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, किस तरह से ट्रेनें लाशों से पटी हुई थी, रक्त रंजित नदियां, वो सारा का सारा दौर मानवीय इतिहास का एक ऐसा कारुणिक और त्रासदीपूर्ण पक्ष है जिसके बारे में अक्सर चर्चा होती है। तो विभाजन की जो ये त्रासदी थी, कोई भी फिल्मकार, रचनात्मक कलाकार अपने समय से कभी अछूता नहीं रहता है, कहीं ना कहीं उसका प्रभाव पड़ता है। हमारे अनेक ऐसे लेखक थे जिन्होंने उन सारे दृश्यों का, उन सारे उस त्रासदियों का बहुत गहराई से कहीं ना कहीं अनुभव किया। और उनका ये अनुभव, उनकी ये संवेदनाएं साहित्य की नानाविध विधाओं के अंदर किसी न किसी रूप में प्रस्फुटित होने लगी। मूल रूप से कथा साहित्य में ज्यादा झलकी, चाहे हम उपन्यासों की बात करें, चाहे हम कहानियों की बात करें। कुछ कविताएं आदि भी थी जिनमें उस समय की उस उत्पीड़न को, उस पलायन की जो एक विभीषिका थी, उसको कहीं ना कहीं चित्रित किया गया। और फिल्म तो ऐसा माध्यम है जो हमारे जीवन से सीधा जुड़ा हुआ है। फिल्मों के माध्यम से भी ये सारा जो दर्द था उस समय की पीढ़ी का, उसे कहीं ना कहीं प्रस्तुत करके, क्योंकि कोई भी साहित्यकार अपने समाज से कटा हुआ नहीं रह सकता। और इसके माध्यम से इतिहासकार इतिहास के तथ्यों का आकलन संकलन करता है, और साहित्यकार उन्हीं ऐसे घटनाक्रम में से इतिहास के साथ साथ कहीं कल्पना के पंख लगा करके उन संवेदनाओं को, मनुष्य की वेदना को जिस रूप में प्रस्फुटित करता है, तो शायद हमारे उस पूरे परिवेश को सोचने समझने के लिए बाध्य करती है। बहुत सारी ऐसी फिल्में उस दौर में बनती हैं। अर्थ, ट्रेन टू पाकिस्तान, गदर एक प्रेम कथा, पिंजर आदि ऐसी कई फिल्में थी जिन्होंने कुछ पात्रों के माध्यम से उस समय के उस परिवेश को व्यक्त किया। गरम हवा, तमस जैसी फिल्में, उन्होंने उस समय के पूरे समाज को बहुत ही प्रभावी ढंग से उकेरा। हालांकि 60 के बाद का जो दशक था उसमें इस तरह के प्रकाशन और इस तरह की फिल्मों का आधिक्य हमें देखने को मिलता है। हालांकि प्रारंभ में कुछ इस तरह के प्रयास किए गए लेकिन जो मुख्य रूप से चर्चा में आए वो 50-60 के दशक के बाद जो रहे, चाहे वो यशपाल का झूठा सच, जिसके बारे में कहते हैं कि विभाजन का अद्भुत दस्तावेजीकरण उन्होंने उस अपने उपन्यास में किया था। भीष्म साहनी का तमस, जिस पर बाद में दूरदर्शन धारावाहिक भी बनाया था, विभाजन की उस पूर्व पीठिका पर एक तरह से वो केंद्रित था। सूखा बरगद, मंजूर रहते नाम का, असगर वजाहत का, जिन लाहौर न देखिया, कृष्णा सोबती की कहानी, सिक्का बदल गया, अज्ञे का शरण दाता, मोहन राकेश भी मलबे का मालिक। मैं कुछ हिंदी के उदाहरण दे रहा हूं, लेकिन ऐसी कौन सी भाषा थी जिसमें यह साहित्य न रचा गया हो। हम हिंदी की बात करें, सिंधी भाषा की बात करें, बंगला भाषा की बात करें, अनेक इस तरह की भाषाएं थी जिसमें पंजाबी भाषा में लिखा गया उस समय की उस मानवीय पीड़ा को, मानवीय भावनाओं को, उस विभाजन की भयावहता को बहुत ही प्रभावी ढंग से अंकित किया गया। आज संयोग से, जैसा मैंने कहा, हमारे साथ ऐसे विशेषज्ञ हैं जिन्होंने इन सारे माध्यमों में एक तरह से अपना जीवन जिया है और उस समय की जो परिस्थितियां थी उसे कहीं ना कहीं अपने शोध अनुसंधान में समेटने की कोशिश की है। तो आइए इस चर्चा की शुरुआत करते हैं डॉक्टर पीयूष राय से। डॉक्टर पीयूष राय पिछले 2 दशक से बहुआयामी व्यक्तित्व के धनी हैं और 2 दशक से विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में आप काम कर रहे हैं। आप इंडियन नेशनल फिल्म अवार्ड आपको प्राप्त हुआ, क्रिटिक कॉलमनिस्ट के रूप में, एक आलोचक स्तंभकार के रूप में, एक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर जाने माने ऑथर हैं, क्यूरेटर हैं, फिल्म मेकर हैं और अध्यापन से जुड़े हुए हैं, प्रोफेसर के रूप में फिल्म जर्नलिज्म में, और एस्थेटिक सौंदर्य शास्त्र आपका जो एक एरिया ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन है वो मुख्य रूप से है। मीडिया, प्रकाशन, शिक्षा और फिल्म निर्माण, ये आपके प्रमुख कार्य क्षेत्र हैं जिसमें आप 2 दशक से अधिक समय से सक्रिय रूप से काम कर रहे हैं। बहुत ही प्रसिद्ध और चर्चित पत्रिका, फिल्म पत्रिका स्टार डस्ट, शायद हमारे जो भी यहाँ मित्र जुड़े हैं इस फिल्म के नाम से परिचित होंगे, उसके आप एडिटर रह चुके हैं। फिल्म वीकली, स्टार वीक के एडिटर आप रहे। उन्होंने देश के अनेक प्रमुख प्रकाशनों के साथ रिपोर्टिंग पोजीशंस पर भी काम किया, जो आप नाम लें, हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स, इंडियन एक्सप्रेस, टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया आदि अनेक ऐसे पत्र हैं जिनके साथ आप अलग अलग कैपेसिटी में कॉलम राइटर और रिपोर्टिंग, लगभग शताधिक मीडिया घरानों के साथ आपका एसोसिएशन रहा है। आपके कुछ प्रमुख फिक्शन भी प्रकाशित हुए हैं, ऑनलाइन नॉवल सीरीज भी आपकी संचालित हो रही है और इन्होंने देश दुनिया के अनेक प्रमुख शैक्षिक संस्थानों में अध्यापन कार्य किया है, जिसमें यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एडिनबर्ग स्कॉटलैंड, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मास कम्युनिकेशन ढेंकानाल, इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मैनेजमेंट अहमदाबाद, मिडास पुणे, जैन यूनिवर्सिटी और वर्तमान में आप आरवी यूनिवर्सिटी का डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ लिबरल स्टडीज, वहां आप डीन के रूप में उस नई पीढ़ी को मीडिया और उससे जुड़े हुए पक्षों पर एक तरह से नेतृत्व कर रहे हैं। आपकी एक प्रमुख पुस्तक बॉलीवुड FAQ, ऑल दैट्स लेफ्ट टू नो अबाउट द ग्रेटेस्ट फिल्म स्टोरी, जिसका अमेरिका से इस पुस्तक का प्रकाशन हुआ है और उसने पूरे जो फिल्म का लगभग 2 सदी की जो यात्रा है राष्ट्रीय अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर, उस फिल्म इतिहास को उन पन्नों पर बहुत ही प्रभावी ढंग से समेटा है। आप अनेक फिल्म फेस्टिवल्स के एडवाइजरी बोर्ड में रहे हैं, फिल्म फेस्टिवल्स की आपने शुरुआत की है, या यूं मैं कहूं कि फिल्म कल्चर को डेवलप करने में, फिल्म संस्कृति को विकसित करने में डॉक्टर पीयूष राय ने एक विशेष योगदान दिया है। आइए हम सुनते हैं डॉक्टर पीयूष राय विभाजन की जो त्रासदी थी उसको हमारे फिल्मकारों ने, सृजनात्मक जो हमारे उस समय के सृजन धर्मी थे, उन्होंने किस रूप में प्रस्तुत किया है। डॉक्टर पीयूष राय।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू आपके काइंड वर्ड्स के लिए एंड ऑल। एम आई ऑडिबल?
यस सर।
Yes, sir.
So I will oscillate between Hindi and English. चलेगा ना?
हाँ बिल्कुल चलेगा।
हिंदी सर।
ये समा बांधने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। मेरा जो कैरियर है वो एज ए जर्नलिस्ट शुरू हुआ एंड आई हैव बीन ऑन दैट साइड व्हिच हैज बीन मेकिंग फिल्म्स एंड रिव्यूइंग फिल्म्स। अब वहां से now coming to academically analyze. So it is given me a multiple perspective to look at cinema. और कभी कभी जब हम क्रिटिक होते हैं हमारे पास बहुत ताकत होता है कि हम किसी भी चीज को बना सकते हैं और कभी कभी लोग बिगाड़ भी देते हैं. But when I became a filmmaker, I realized what it means to to be a more empathetic critique. So today's presentation I will be focusing on one aspect. और ये मेरा एक थीसिस भी है और आर्गुमेंट भी है, which is a full chapter in my book Bollywood FAQ, where I argue अगर पार्टीशन नहीं हुआ होता तो बॉम्बे सिनेमा जो एक इंडिया का प्रमुख सिनेमा बना वो नहीं हो पाता. It would have been just another regional film industry. It wouldn't happen. Like Bollywood wouldn't have been the definitive national cinema. Of course, that perspective is now changing. अभी हम अगर बात करें तो इंडिया के प्रमुख फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में शायद बॉलीवुड तीसरे स्थान पे आ गया है. But that is for another time. But the golden era of जो सिनेमा हम कहते हैं 1950s और 60s का दशक and the rise of Bollywood. So I will broadly look at एक थोड़ा context बताऊंगा. 1940s में इंडिया का फिल्म सीन कैसा था. बहुत ही robust था. It was one of the leading cinemas in the world, not just in terms of number of films they made, but in terms of the influence, both influencing the form of cinema, the narratives coming out of cinema, and giving to cinema some of the greatest creators. So this will be my structure. I will look at that. फिर partition में क्या हुआ, कैसे लोग इधर उधर बट गए और किस तरह एग्जिस्टिंग 5 इंडस्ट्री से हम एक इंडस्ट्री उस मंथन से उभरा और बना नंबर 1 सिनेमा ऑफ इंडिया. So by the end of 1940s, अच्छा भावना, I can ask you to go.
Yes, sir.
Slides, na? You will.
So whenever you tell me, I'll change the slide.
So to begin with, history is not about manifested destinies. It is a preparatory for unexpected futures. So this will be not a critical review of cinema, but a historical review of the growth of Bombay cinema. The history will be my background of looking at this phenomena. So we can go to the next slide. So by the end of 1940s, 5 major movie-making centers had emerged across the Indian subcontinent of equal import and influence, each defined by a studio and its signature style, evolved in accordance with a distinct vision and approach to filmmaking. So जैसे Bombay में we had Bombay Talkies, known for its film with high technical standards. Himanshu Rai, Devika Rani were the pioneers of this, and we had some very fantastic movies from here like Achutanya, Kismat, and then the Prabhat Picture Company stood out for its realistic, devotional and social films shot on impeccably designed sets. So its production house ki movie Sant Tukaram was voted at that time as one of the 3 most influential cinemas in the world. Then we had in Lahore Pancholi Arts, stood out for its robust Punjabi style music and dramatic performances. Gemini Studios in Madras with a mark for grand costume drama spectacles, and New Theatres in Calcutta became renowned for its sensitive musical adaptations of literary classics. So this was the area when a studio insignia, when people went to theatre and saw the studio insignia, they could know what kind of a film it will be. So whether it will be realistic, social, literary adaptation, musical, stunt adventure, or epic costume drama. So between them, Lahore, Bombay, Kolhapur, Calcutta, and Madras, the 5 movie centers enjoyed a free flow and exchange of talents based on individual creative aspirations. If the realists went to Prabhat, those seeking artistic freedom and intellectual satisfaction came to New Theatres. Well, Bombay Talkies became a go-to destination for those wishing to hone technical efficiency. It was a purely opportunity-based reshuffling of employers by success guaranteeing talented employees in a subcontinentalized nation under a single administration. If you could see the next slide. So this is what the subcontinent looked at. This is Film India was one of the important magazines, and here they mentioned the centers were important distribution centers as well as theaters were there. So ये था undivided India का स्वरूप. from a film perspective. And if you see in the corner, there are about 20 countries where the film magazine was going, and people were reading about Indian cinema. And then, of course, partition happened in 1947. Two nations were carved out: Muslim majority Pakistan on 14th August and Hindu-dominated Hindustan on 15th August. According to partition estimates, and as Sir rightly said in the beginning, it was 14 million people were displaced and 70,000 women were kidnapped, raped, and murdered. This event has been equated by many as India's Holocaust. Now, two of undivided British India in this map, largest film industries were directly affected. I talked about the 5. Out of these, 2 were directly affected because states they were based in, Punjab and Bengal, got divided. Half of Bengal became East Pakistan and half of Punjab went to West Pakistan. Calcutta, the administrative capital of undivided Bengal, remained with India, while Lahore, the cine literary cultural hub of North India, went to Pakistan. Calcutta-based film industry lost a large chunk of its market, the box office, to East Pakistan, and some of its production exhibition properties to riots-induced damage. By the mid-50s, the shining beacon of the cinematic of the Calcutta space, the new theaters had stopped making films. Now, in Bombay, courtesy this geographical distance from actual locations of partition, the damage to properties and people through violence and rioting was negligible compared to Lahore and Calcutta. It is noted that large parts of Lahore and Calcutta burned for days on end, experiencing a complete collapse of law and order. Barring the gutting down of studio of actor, producer, director Nazir Ahmad Khan's Hind Pictures, there hadn't been any major partition-induced violence against the leading Muslim star in Bombay. Now, Nazir, a popular hero with a record of having acted opposite 35 actresses, left Mumbai with his actress Swarnalata to become a leading actor filmmaker of the newly formed Pakistan's nascent film industry. They were the lead pair of Pakistan's first Silver Jubilee hit film, Phere, or 1949 it released. Other Bombay-based leading Muslim talent of the day who migrated to Pakistan included the popular leading lady of the 1940s, Noor Jahan, and her director husband, Shaukat Hassan Rizvi, singer-actress Khushi, music director Ghulam Haider, and writer Sadat Hassan Manto. Haider and Manto passed away within a decade of relocation, while Rizvi, who went to become a pioneer filmmaker of the Pakistan film industry, along with actor-director Nazir, both were in their 40s. So the thing is, those people who moved from here to there were already their work life peak, they had already passed. They were already in the 40s and all. So their acting life shelf life was already getting limited, and these people moved to the other side. And then I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah. Just if we go to the previous slide, I wanted to just highlight another important fact. If you see here, each particular year hit would be coming from different one of these 5 cities. For instance, if Zindagi which was made in Calcutta New Theatre, was the highest grossing film of 1940. Pancholi's Khajanchi was from Lahore, and it was the biggest blockbuster of 1941. And then again, Bombay Talkies' Kismat becomes the next blockbuster in 1943. Just to reiterate the fact that the blockbusters were all coming from each of these industries. It's not like any one place had its monopoly. So now we can go to the next slide. And then let's go to the next slide. Yes. So who all were there leading influences? A great number of Muslim talent working in the Bombay film industry, however, opted to stay back in India. So as I was saying, Khurshid, then Shaukat and Rizvi and all these people left. But the majority opted to stay back. Among them, the treasure trove of young and talented actors just launched or tried to make a mark. Dilip Kumar, Meena Kumari, Nargis, Madhubala made the most of the vacancies left at the top. So that another reason why these people in their early 20s and late 19s make a mark. Most of the heroines at that time were like Madhubala and all were in their late teens, and is also because the top suddenly khali ho gaya. Matlab ek lot mein all the top deck got emptied, and so opportunities came to them. The above four, along with two Hindu star talents hailing from Pakistan, Devanand and Raj Kapoor, were just entering the best years of their acting careers. Dilip Kumar, Devanand and Raj Kapoor were all in their early 20s, below 25, while Meena Kumari, Nargis and Madhubala were still in their teens at the time of India's independence. So by 1950s, they went on to form a formidable triumvirate of the finest and most influential male and female stars of Indian cinema. So while the birth of Pakistani cinema happened with a talent pool already in its prime or beyond, Bombay cinema kicked off filmmaking in independent India with a new generation of young and modern talents who both shaped and also got their acting talent shaped in the golden age of Indian cinema. Enriching their acts was, see, I mean, no success in film, it's a team effort. The industry is the way it works. So it is not just that we had great actors. Enriching the acts was a talent pool of uprooted writers, intellectuals, directorial talents, technicians, and musicians from the partition affected parts of eastern, northern, and northwestern India. Lahore's biggest producer, Dalsukh Pancholi, and the maker of two of its biggest box office hits, Khajanchi and Khandan, in 1941 and 42, migrated to Bombay, along with the hero of the film called Khandan, who incidentally came on to become the greatest face of on-screen villainy in Bollywood, Pran Sahab, playing memorable negative and character parts until the 90s. Lahore-based journalist of Cine Herald, Baldev Raj Chopra, who was all set to launch his filmmaking career with Chandni Chowk in 1947, had to flee the city with his family just before the film was to go on the floor due to partition-related riots. He first came to Delhi and then Bombay, where his BR films established in 1955 made a mark with hard-hitting popular social dramas and the refining of the courtroom drama genre. Chopra signed up a very prolific career with India's most watched TV series Mahabharat, based on the epic Mahabharata, of course. Also, the other big TV series of the 80s, the maker of that, Ramanand Sagar of Ramayana, he too was a partition victim and uprooted and relocated to India. Chopra's other big contribution was launching and nurturing the career of his younger brother Yash Chopra, also a partition migrant. Yash Chopra later launched his own production house under the Yashraj Films banner, which grew to become Bollywood's largest privately owned new age studio right up to the present century. Actor, producer, director, writer Manoj Kumar was another partition refugee from Abbottabad in Pakistan, who pioneered and established independent India's patriotic film genre through a series of multi-starrer blockbusters between 60s and 80s. So, but while these were people, the Hindus migrating for there and coming, even some of the Muslim talents, some stayed back, some went. Some of those who went also returned because the Islamicization of the state, certain curbs were there on the creative freedom. So I'm going to focus on those who went and came back also. A context in strife has always inspired great humanist art. But for that art to manifest, a state of calm is equally necessary. So the Bombay film industry's inherent plural make and habitually practice adherence to a secular, all-inclusive outlook as imagined in a new and free India constitution, coupled with the city's cosmopolitan ethos full of migrants from all over India across region, class, caste, and religion, assured a comparatively freer work environment for all intellectuals, Muslims included. Case in point here is the return to Bombay of one of the founders of the Lahore film industry in the pre-independence era. This is producer-director A.R. Kardar and his brother-in-law Mehboob Khan. Now, Kardar and Khan have both left. We will still stay in the slide number 8. I'll tell you when to stay. Let's stay. Kardar and Khan had both left for Pakistan during partition while Mehboob Khan went on to become one of the greatest filmmakers of independent India, making its first best foreign film Oscar nominee, Mother India. Kardar directed 10 more movies based on English film and literary adaptations, speaking with the multi-starrer Dil Diya Dard Liya, which was inspired by Wuthering Heights. But while Kardar and Mehboob Khan managed a quick, quiet return, the more vocal artists and writers like leftist poet lyricist Sahir Ludhianvi, who was based in Lahore since 1943 and to flee to India in 1949 to avoid the restrictions on creativity imposed by a conservative Islamic state of Pakistan. Fellow left-leaning writer of immense literary merit and a post-partition migrant from Bombay, Sadat Mohsen Manto, who opted to stay put in Pakistan, spent most of his time fighting court cases defending his freedom to write. So this was kind of the scenes, setting up. So there are three-way movement happening. Some stayed back, some went and returned, and then those who were uprooted, they also came back. And why Bombay? Bombay also attracted. Now we can go to the next slide. So these were like we're talking about actors and filmmakers. Now let's look at the other talents that make a film. Also attracted many Muslim literary writers, poets to join as script story writers and song lyricists. Notable Urdu writers who achieved a successful interaction between the pen and the camera include Aga Hashar Kashmiri, Narayan Prasad Betab, Wali Muhammad Ali, Sadat Hasan Manto, Krishna Chandar, Rajinder Singh Bedi, Akhtarul Imam, Jahat Mirza, Khaja Ahmad Abbas, Abrar Alvi, and Ismail Chugtai. Urdu poets who made Bombay their professional address to make successful film lyrics include the likes of Majru Sultanpuri, Sahir Ludhianvi, Shakil Badayuni, Naqshab, Ehsan Rizvi, Arju Lakhnavi, Munshi Sams, Kamal Amrohi, Hasrat Jaipuri, Raja Mehdi Ali Khan, Kamar Jalalabadi, Kaifi Azmi, Jan Nisar Akhtar. Poets known for their works in Hindi and Urdu who made a mark writing for cinema include Mukundlal Simab, Gauri Shankar Lal Akhtar, Pandit Fani, and Gulzar, also victim of partition, made his debut as a lyrics writer in a golden age of the cinema. So thus the greater number of leading Urdu literary personalities offering a service to writing for the cinematic medium brought in a very interesting lingua franca into the language of the films made out of Bombay and ensured that Hindustani, not Hindi, a mix of Hindi and Urdu languages instead of pure Hindi became the lingua franca of Bombay cinema. As most scripts of the post-independence era, from Mughal costume dramas like Mughal-e-Azam to luminous poetic laments like Gurudat's Pyasa, Subodh Mukherjee, or comedies like Subodh Mukherjee's Paying Guest, or cult social tragedies like Bimal Roy's Devdas, they were all written in Urdu script. Now, joining these writing opportunities induced the migration of Muslim literatures writing in Urdu, primarily from northern and central India also. The cessation of filmmaking in the new theatres by the mid-1950s saw some of its finest technical and directorial talents like Nitin Bose, Kedarnath Sharma, and Bimal Roy come to Bombay for better career prospects. Bimal Roy went on to become one of the most influential and critically acclaimed directors in Bombay cinema in the 1950s and 60s, winning 7 Best Director honors at the Filmfare Awards, instituted in the 1950s as a Bollywood equivalent of the Oscars. In the next slide, we can see all of these people. Perhaps we could go to the next slide. So there is one side where you see K.R. B.R. Chopra, Mehboob Khan, Raj Kapoor, and Bimal Roy, all in one frame. The Bimal Roy School of Filmmaking, continuing the sensibilities of the new creators, gave rise to another generation of directors of purposeful entertainment, like Asit Sen, Rishikesh Mukherjee, and Gulzar, who had started their careers as technicians in Roy's films. Another Bombay cinema filmmaker of consequence coming from a premier talkie era studio was V. Shantaram from the Prabhat Film Company, who started his own Rajkamal Kalamandir. He set the template for socially relevant musicals with strong regional folk and classical roots presented in Hindustani and treated in a way that was universally acceptable. Prabhat had also been the training ground for Guru Dutt, also known as the Orson Welles of Indian cinema, and the evergreen actor-director Devanand, a lead star from the 50s influential acting trio and one of the India's all-time favorite style icons and popular romantic hero. Meanwhile, the acting discoveries of Bombay talkies, Ashok Kumar and Dilip Kumar, went on to become a reference text of good acting for generation of subsequent actors. Another multi-apprentice at the Bombay talkies, Raj Kapoor, went on to become Bollywood's greatest ambassador and most successful showman of the studio's All India film format as an actor, adapting every discipline of the film craft: direction, production, acting, casting, and even music. To conclude, thus, it can confidently argue that had the partition of India not happened in 1947, Bombay would have remained just one among the 5 leading movie-making centers in pre-partition India. So we would have had these 5 centers, like you can call it Lollywood, Tollywood, or whatever, but these would have been it would have been a continent of 5 major film industries. So, but what partition did, as we saw, you had an influx of the great talents, all say coming from new theaters, Bimal Roy and others. You had the writers coming from central India. You had the people migrating from the actors and other talents from Lahore. So, and each of them gave a distinct style to the Bombay cinema. For example, the influence of Punjabi culture, especially on music of Hindi cinema, continues undiminished even today with a plethora of acting and directing talents from Punjab. You know, the Chopras, the Kapoors, the Deols, the Kumars, Rajendra Kumar, Akshay Kumar, and the Singhs and Ranveer Singh and others of the day. Calcutta, so they brought that robust music tradition which still continues in Hindi cinema. Calcutta got, of course, the Bhadralok sensibility and with actors like Ashok Kumar, Pradeep Kumar, but also technicians and singers like Manade, Kishore Kumar, Geeta Dutt, choreographers and some pathwaking experimenters in the composition of film music like S.D. Burman, Salil Chaudhary, Hemant Kumar and R.D. Burman. The influence of South was relatively less. One was the language was a barrier, and also because the Madras film industry was barely affected by partition, and so it continued to be its own, maintain its own identity, but it did start making some films. Hindi films were also started like from Gemini Studios and ABM and all these places. In terms of long-term influence, it only started with becoming a Vaijayanti Mala. She was the first actress of her generation to be trained from a classical background to enter into film, and so she changed the face of dance for a heroine forever. And then subsequently, if you would see, 4 of the 5 leading ladies who went on to rule Bollywood box office in subsequent decades, like Hema Malini in the 70s, Sridevi in the 80s, Madhuri in the 90s, Aishwarya Rai in the 2000s, and Deepika Padukone in the 2010s, all hailed, except Madhuri, of course, from South India, and were all trained in classical dance form. So being trained in a classical dance form became one of the unstated required attributes, courtesy the coming and success of Vaijayanti Mala. Of course, now post 90s, it has more become being a Miss India, and that's where the acting naturally has suffered. So South India's behind the scene contribution started with S.S. Vasan, successful bilingual experiment Chandralekha, and that trend continues. They make films there. They also dub them and release them in Hindi, and so it maintained its robust identity. So proportionately, perhaps the southern influence was the coming in of classical dance trained actresses to the fore. Lastly, the regional but influential Marathi cinema shut down its scattered Maharashtra hinterland-based filmmaking centers in Nashik, especially after Phalke, and Pune after Prabhat, when Shantaram and all came out and made their own studios in Bombay, like Rajkamal Kala Mandir, to make Bombay its preferred production destination. Talented Marathi actors and technicians, Shobana Samrat, Nutan, Shriram Lagu, Vijay Tendulkar, Dr. Mohan Agashe, Nilu Pule, Vikram Gokhale, and first through Shantaram's Rajkamal Studios and subsequently independently started making their mark in the national Hindi cinema. So that's why it is the golden age, also because the kind of people who were coming together, the best of talents, either industries shutting up, studio shutting down, people migrating and coming, because primarily it is also to do with the ethos of Bombay. Pre-partition crisscrossing of film industry talents, especially between Lahore, Calcutta and Bombay, post-partition had only one direction, that was Bombay. So that a city of migrants has come to be the maker and keeper of the national cinema conscience in a nation of strong regional identities is perhaps the greatest testament of secular and plural, not just being a stated national habit, but a uniting way of life for majority India. And so then, of course, Bombay grew, and today Bollywood has become synonymous with the way we understand Indian cinema. As a parting shot, let me I want to share this photo and to just celebrate the good times coming and modernity that came so very well and so very well integrated with authenticity and local flavor. And to give this masala film, or the so-called film, basically masala film is nothing but a film with all the navarasas, the formula film, its association with the identity of Bombay. And any guesses who the lady in the picture is? Thank you. I'll stop at there.
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर पीयूष राय जी। आपने प्रारंभिक दौर था सिनेमा का हमारे देश में, विशेषकर 40, 50 और 60 के दशक में, उसके बहुत सारे चरित्रों को अपने इस प्रस्तुति के माध्यम से, प्रेजेंटेशन के माध्यम से जीवंत कर दिया। किस तरह से उस समय के जो स्टूडियोज थे उन्होंने सिनेमा के विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में, चाहे वो नृत्य, संगीत, कथानक, शिल्प आदि की दृष्टि से किस तरह से प्रभावित किया, उसका एक शोध अनुसंधानपूर्ण विवेचन हम सभी के सामने रखा। और किस तरह से विभाजन के उस दौर से भारत और पाकिस्तान की जो प्रतिभाएं थी उनके सामने क्या क्या किस तरह की चुनौतियां आई, और उन्होंने किस तरह से फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में, और विशेषकर बॉम्बे जैसा जो शहर है बॉलीवुड, उसने उसको किस तरह से प्रभावित किया विभाजन ने, उस पर आपने अपनी बात कही। हमारे साथ जो प्रतिभागी यदि उनके मन में कोई सवाल है तो हमारे वक्ताओं के वक्तव्य समाप्त होने के बाद हम उन्हें अवसर देंगे कि वो सीधे आपसे सवाल, कोई उनके मन में शंका हो या ऑब्जर्वेशन हो तो अपनी बात कर सके। शोमा जी मुझे लगता है अभी तक ज्वाइन नहीं कर पाई हैं, उनका मैसेज मृणाल जी के पास था क्योंकि अस्वस्थ हैं, वो जैसे ही वो ज्वाइन करेंगे तब हम उनको आमंत्रित करेंगे। लेकिन उसके पूर्व, उन्हें बुलाने से पूर्व मैं आमंत्रित करूंगा प्रोफेसर मृणाल चटर्जी को। प्रोफेसर मृणाल चटर्जी से मेरा व्यक्तिगत रूप से लगभग 1.5 दशक का संबंध है। IIMC ढेंकानाल में रीजनल डायरेक्टर के रूप में आपने पत्रकारों की एक नई पीढ़ी को तैयार करने की दिशा में बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण कार्य किया है। आप एक मीडिया कर्मी, साहित्यकार और कॉलमनिस्ट, कई तरह के व्यक्तित्व आप में समाये हुए हैं। आप टीचिंग में आने से पहले मीडिया, सक्रिय मीडिया के साथ जुड़े हुए थे। आपने उड़ीसा का एक प्रमुख अखबार संवाद, उसके नॉर्थ ईस्ट रीजन के आप संपादक रहे। ETV के साथ साइंस बेस्ड जो उनके प्रोग्राम्स थे, लगभग 4 साल तक आपने वो प्रोग्राम उनका कंडक्ट किया। उड़िया, अंग्रेजी और बंगाली तीनों भाषाओं में आप समान अधिकार से विभिन्न पत्र पत्रिकाओं में नियमित रूप से लिख रहे हैं। कम्युनिकेशन टुडे में भी आपकी पूरी एक सीरीज पिछले कई वर्षों से चल रही है जिसमें आप देश के प्रमुख समाचार पत्रों पर एक परिचयात्मक आलेख हमें भेज रहे हैं। आपके 1 दर्जन से अधिक उपन्यास प्रकाशित हो चुके हैं जो अनेक भाषाओं में ट्रांसलेट हुए हैं, हिंदी सहित अन्य भाषाओं में भी ट्रांसलेट हुए हैं, और निरंतर कुछ न कुछ करते रहने की आपकी प्रवृत्ति है। IIMC में रहते हुए अनेक मोनोग्राफ आपने तैयार किए। कोविड टाइम में भी जो समकालीन मुद्दे हैं मीडिया से जुड़े हुए, उन पर इस प्रकार के शोध अनुसंधान परक मोनोग्राफ आपने तैयार किए, और पार्टीशन फिल्म पर भी आपने विशेष शोध कार्य किया, और कुछ वर्षों पूर्व आपने इस पर एक प्रकाशन भी जारी किया था। के बिरला फाउंडेशन की फेलोशिप के ऊपर आपने काम किया, और सेंटर फॉर साइंस एंड एनवायरनमेंट, नई दिल्ली, उसके साथ भी आप जुड़े रहे। और आपका जो मुख्य एरिया है, इंटरेस्ट का जो एरिया है, मीडिया, सोसाइटी, पार्टीशन फिल्म्स, कार्टूनिंग, डेवलपमेंट कम्युनिकेशन और डिजिटल मीडिया। तो अपने आप में अनेक क्षेत्रों में आप निरंतर काम कर रहे हैं और हमारे इस वेबिनार सीरीज में आपका सक्रिय सहयोग और मार्गदर्शन मुझे मिलता रहा है। और अनेक जो एक्सपर्ट्स हैं उनके माध्यम से हम इस मंच पर लाने में सफल हुए, जैसे पीयूष राय और सोमा जी जैसी प्रख्यात फिल्म समीक्षक, जो शायद देश की एकमात्र ऐसी महिला फिल्म समीक्षक हैं जिन्हें 2 प्रमुख अवार्ड, नेशनल फिल्म अवार्ड फॉर बेस्ट फिल्म स्क्रिप्ट और नेशनल अवार्ड फॉर बेस्ट राइटिंग ऑन सिनेमा से आप सम्मानित हो चुकी हैं। हम उम्मीद करते हैं वो हमारे बीच में शीघ्र होंगी यहाँ अपना बात कहने के लिए। तब तक मैं प्रोफेसर मृणाल चटर्जी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि वे अपने अनुभव हमारे साथ शेयर करें। प्रोफेसर मृणाल चटर्जी।
धन्यवाद मानवत जी। वैसे ही मेरे जो वॉइस है वो बड़ा मोटा है और आज तो और बिगड़ गया है। आप लोग प्लीज बेयर विथ द काइंड ऑफ वॉइस दैट आई हैव नाउ। सो आई हैव अ प्रेजेंटेशन। लेट मी, इज इट विजिबल?
Not yet, sir.
दिखा रहा है, एक सेकंड। Is it visible now?
अब ठीक है,
Yes.
विजिबल नाउ।
It's visible now?
यस यस।
Right. Thank you. So in the next half an hour, what I'll try to do is to take you through partition literature, partition cinema, and also reflection and portrayal of partition in other art forms, including, if we may call journalism is also an art, then including journalism, photography, cartoons, etc. Let me go quickly now. What is happening? Why can't I? Mira. It's visible now, but it's not moving. Why? I don't understand. Why is it not moving?
या तो आप भी भावना जी को भेज दीजिए, उधर से हो जाएगा फिर।
हाँ सर, आप you can send it to me.
ये कोशिश कर रहा था, ये बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा है इसलिए मैं भेज नहीं पाया। एक बार और ट्राई करूंगा, अदरवाइज स्टॉप एंड I'll just speak.
सर full screen नहीं हो रहा है शायद. You can just move the slide one by one. It's not going full screen.
I think so. What I'm doing is एक तो entire screen में जाता हूँ.
पहले share it, sir. Then you can go one by one, slide one by one.
That's what I'm doing.
But a full screen is not possible. I think it's नहीं हो रहा है.
हाँ वही, एक window से जाऊँ फिर. I can see that in my window, but why? I can see this, but it's not visible. I mean, it's not moving. It's not doing anything. Anyway, forget that.
Professor Chatterjee, may I suggest that you just tell us something, because you're such a brilliant scholar that it is always a pleasure.
That's what I'm saying. Look, let's forget technology. Let's talk face to face. Let me give you a brief background of or the timeline of events. Right. It was in 1600 that the East India Company was formed. Right. 1757, Lord Clive led the English soldiers to victory in the Battle of Plassey. So from 1757 to 1857, 100 years. 1857, the first war of independence. And 1947, 90 years, we got our independence. Right. Now, what happened before 1947 and what led to the partition? Two things happened. In 1885, Indian National Congress was formed. In 1906, Muslim League was formed. In 1930, this was for the first time that the Muslim League and led by some intellectuals and philosopher Allama Iqbal, they first proposed the idea of a separate nation, Pakistan. Initially, it was rejected even by Muslim League. They wanted to go along with Congress. From this time, from 1930 till 1947, there are several versions of what happened. And there are several gray areas. And there are several players. Muslim League emerged as the protector of quote-unquote Muslim, as two nations theory emerged. Jinnah became probably ambitious, and he wanted to head up a country which he thought that he would never be able to do in United India. I mean, several things happened. Hindu Mahasabha emerged as a protector of Hindu kind of interest. And in the melee, gradually, the leading voice, which was of Mahatma Gandhi's since 1920s, it gradually was sidelined. So by 1940s, early 1940s, when it was clear to everybody, including the British, that India cannot be ruled anymore from distance, and it has to be given freedom, right? Everybody knew that freedom is coming, and everybody wanted their share of power. So in the melee, several narratives emerged. I'm not going into that, right? The partition happened in real haste and without any preparation. A gentleman was brought from England, Cyril Radcliffe. He was given 5 weeks to draw the map on which two countries will be partitioned. Right? He suffered from dysentery. He didn't know about the country, the areas, but anyway, he did it because he had to do it in a hurry. And meanwhile, violence spread. Violence and hatred has been spreading since 1920s, or if we put a more definite timeline, since mid-1920s. Look at the newspapers of Bengal. Look at the newspapers of Punjab. Right? The violence gradually was spreading, and it grew in intensity. And in 1947, 14th, 15th, India became independent, and also India was shivered into two separate countries. It was a bloodbath. Never ever in human history violence of this magnitude and scale happened, not even during Holocaust. Right? Millions of people passed from that side to this side, came from that side to this side to that side. Right? So what was the fallout of partition? 15 million people moved or were forced to move. Between 500,000 to 2 million died. Thousands were raped, children murdered, and that was the condition. Trauma everywhere, pain everywhere, agony everywhere. Now, when we are looking back 75 years after that gory incident, right, gradually, the people who had suffered then, many of them have died because it's already 75 years past, right? Gradually, they have settled down, but memories do remain. And therefore, I have titled my presentation as Inheritance of Memories. Memories do not die. They can fade, but with external or internal tinkering, it can again be refreshed. Right? The history of partition haunts the subcontinent, just like in Ireland, where Brexit has made the separation between Ireland and Northern Ireland a live issue all over again. It didn't solve any problem it purported to solve between different communities. One question that many people have asked, why so much violence? Hindus and Muslims have been living side by side for so many years, centuries. What happened? What happened? I read about that. Several studies have been done, and there were several answers to that. One of the answer probably was the situation. कुछ आपकी गलती, कुछ मेरी गलती, कुछ शायद हम दोनों की गलती, और कुछ शायद हालात की गलती. ये सारी factors were there. Now, literature and film, they portray the agonies, the human suffering, tragedy. They call it the sweetest songs are those who tells about the saddest thought, right? So many works of literature have been created in several languages, mostly in Bengali, Punjabi, Urdu, Hindi. These are the languages in which people, the areas where people have suffered the most. Sindhis probably have suffered the most because others, they at last found a place to call their own. Punjabis came to Punjab. Bengalis came to Bengal. However, it was not the same Bengal, but then Bengal, right? But Sindhis, they found no homeland. Right? So in Sindhi, in Assam, and I have seen that partition literature has its footprint in several languages across India, including Malayalam, including Tamil, including Kannada, Marathi, little bit of Odia, and other languages as well. कहने की मतलब यह है कि पार्टीशन लिटरेचर की जो छाप आप पूरी इंडिया में देख सकोगे, बट ज्यादातर वही लैंग्वेज में आप देख सकोगे जिसने इसमें बहुत सफर किया है. इन बंगाली अच्छा, बंगाली की और प्रॉब्लम है. Bengal suffered partition thrice. In 1905 it was partition, in 1947 it was partition, and then again in 1971 East Pakistan became Bangladesh, again a bloody war, right? So we have more literature on all three coming up, but we will be concentrating on only partition. So बहुत सारे this side and that side of Bengal we have literature. Same for Punjabi, and from Punjab we get in two languages, Punjabi as well as Urdu. During that time, Urdu was almost the lingua franca in undivided Punjab at that time. So we have a lot of Urdu literature coming up, many from this side, also on that side, and then Hindi, and then Sindhi. I will circulate this book which has the details. Because I do not have much time, I cannot go individually, I cannot discuss individual pieces of literature. I'll send this in Assamese as well. Right. Now, let me tell you what have been the themes, phases, and changes. We have some brilliant stories like Toba Tek Singh, brilliant writing like The Train from Pakistan. Pinjar by Amrita Pritam. In Bangla, you have Sunil Gangopadhyay's Purva Paschim, Othan Bhattacharya's Nilkantha Pakir Moje. Several, I mean, I can go on and on speaking on that. Now, what have been the themes, phases, and changes? And are there any thematic change between, say, Punjabi literature and Hindi literature and Bangla literature on partition? I have studied that also, and I found that in the initial phases, we find more portrayal of the horror, the rage, and negativity. But along with that, there was some element of hope, right? But gradually with time now, the books and the literature, they are dwelling more on nostalgia. Look at Red Samadhi, look at Anchal Sharma's books, look at the books which are coming post 90s, 2000. More of nostalgia, right? People have not forgotten the pain, but they have probably started to live with the pain. But that nostalgia, the life that they had, their forefathers had back there, that persists. Let me come now to cinema, television, and theater. Again, mostly in Bengali, Punjabi, Urdu, Hindi, English, Assamese. However, films with partition background have been made in several other languages, including Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam. Chinnamol was the first film, Nimai Bhattacharya, 1950. It was the first film on partition, followed by several other films. Notable among them are Karm Hawa, Khamosh Pani, Train to Pakistan, etc., etc., etc. Now also, films having, if not totally based on partition, but having allusions to partition are being made. In 2021, last year only, we have a film called Sardar Ka Trance, and it was released on Netflix, which also talks about partition. In Bengali, well, Raj Kahini, Meghe Dhakatara, Ritik Ghatak's trilogy, I mean, several films. In Assamese also, you have a lot of films on partition, beginning with Siraj. Let me now talk about fine art, paintings. Many painters, great painters, have also been partition refugees, like Satish Gujral, like Kishan Khanna. They painted later on partition. And the content and theme are brooding loss, pain, suffering, melancholy, and somewhere, well, hope. Now let me talk about the photographs. Someone asked me, why are not many Indian photographers are there? 80% of the photographs that you see on partition today, which are available in public domain, have been clicked by Margaret Burke. Now let me talk about this lady, photojournalist from US. She was sent to India by Life magazine to cover partition, and she was given official protection. One Indian photojournalist, she found out this photojournalist, Sunil Jana, she requested him to help, and together they made a team and they toured around, and many of the photographs have also been clicked by Sunil Jana. Henry Cartier-Bresson also made a trip to India immediately after the partition, and he also took some great photographs. The first woman photojournalist, Homai Bhairawala, she took some photographs not of the violence, not of the gory side of partition, but immediately before partition. One of her photographs, I wish I could have shown you, of the AICC voting for the partition of India in June 3rd, 1947. It was a historic photograph everybody should see. Now, coming to cartoons. Cartoon, as all of you know, is lampoons. It also provides a social commentary. So in cartoon after cartoon, in 40s and 50s, we see the turmoil in the political arena portrayed in cartoons. In Hindustan Standard, in Hindustan Times, in Times of India, in several newspapers in India, also abroad. I have a good collection of those cartoons. Some of them we have printed here, which I am sending to all the participants. So they may just peruse. And in all those cartoons, there have been critique of the political situation. One interesting case of cartoon is Dawn, which was started and won by Jinnah. The cartoonists in Dawn, they used to make fun of Gandhi and the Congress line of thinking and Congress leaders. In Hindustan Times, did the opposite. And the major cartoonist, the lead cartoonist in Hindustan Times was Ahmed. And Jinnah was often shown as the villain. Even R.K. Lakshman drew some cartoons post-partition on the violence. Right? I have a collection form here. Now, talking about other art forms, I'll take just another 5 minutes to wrap up. The Partition Anti-Memorial Project has been exhibited in museums and galleries across different countries. It's online also. In Amritsar, they have built a beautiful what they call a partition museum, which is a repository of stories, materials, documents related to partition. There are artifacts, there are paintings, and also recordings of the partition sufferers. There has been oral history project by Urvashi Butalia, where she has recorded the experience of many partition survivors. And all those recordings, when you listen to them, you get the social picture. You get the real picture of what had happened then. Now, there is a renewed attempt by young people to portray those stories, to keep those stories in visual form, in animation and in visual forms, right? If you look at the YouTube, you will get many such small films, animation films, which tells the story. One such film I have with me is Ravipar, right? Ravipar is a poignant story by Guljar. It has been made into animation film by a group of Pakistani and Indian young men and women. In advertisements also, the theme of Pakistan has been used to evoke that sense of melancholy and to evoke that sense of camaraderie and friendship which we had at one point of time. Please appreciate that Hindus and Muslims joined together under the banner of Congress for freedom fight. Right? There were several Muslim leaders who stuck to this idea and who said, including Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who says this is a blunder. Gandhi also said so. But then, whatever happened has happened. Now, how do art forms, literature, films, they look at partition after 75 years? My thesis has been that the rage has mellowed down. We are no longer enraged at what had happened 75 years ago to my probably grandfather, great-grandfather. They suffered. Yes, I feel that pain, but that rage has mellowed down. Second, the scorn and bitterness, which you can find in 50s, 60s, immediately after partition, that has reduced. Now, there is a melancholic gloom on both sides. And attempts of reconciliation and lasting peace from both sides, from right-thinking people, especially young men and women. However, to end my deliberation, hate could be a political and military asset. Hate has always been a political and military asset. Right? Hate can be fanned easily. And now, especially with the present day technology. So, literature, art, any art is kind of a conscience of the society. And they are telling us to get over it, if not forgetting it. Right? The question with which I'll end is that, are we willing to listen to our conscience? Thank you very much.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मृणाल जी। विभाजन की उस पृष्ठभूमि से लेकर के किस तरह से उस समय राजनीतिक चक्र चला और किस तरह से देश को विभाजन की इस त्रासदी को झेलना पड़ा, साहित्य की विभिन्न विधाओं के माध्यम से, चाहे वो फोटोग्राफ्स हैं, कार्टून्स हैं, फिल्म्स हैं, एनिमेशन फिल्म है, विज्ञापन है, किस तरह से उस समय की उस मानवीय अनुभूतियों, संवेदनाओं और पीड़ा को उस समय के रचनाकारों ने नानाविध तरीके से व्यक्त किया, उसका बहुत ही व्यापक विवरण तो आपने दिया ही, बल्कि संकलन भी किया। और मुझे लगता है कि आज की इस वेबिनार की उपलब्धि कि आपने बड़े मेहनत के साथ जिस तरह से उस पुस्तक का प्रकाशन किया है, जैसा आपने आश्वासन दिया है सभी प्रतिभागियों को, यदि उसका ई एडिशन हमको आप भेज दें तो जब हम इसका वीडियो शेयर करेंगे सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को, उसी के साथ वो आपकी पुस्तक भी हम शेयर कर देंगे, ताकि सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को उसके जो अनेक पक्ष हैं, क्योंकि संक्षिप्त समय में बहुत विस्तार से बात नहीं की जा सकती, लेकिन उस सारे परिवेश को समझने के लिए, उस समय के माहौल को समझने के लिए, जैसा आपने कहा कि आज की पीढ़ी ने उस पीड़ा को महसूस नहीं किया जो हमारे पूर्वजों ने या हमारे ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स ने जिस तरह से उसको महसूस किया, तो शायद साहित्य के इन विभिन्न विधाओं के माध्यम से हम उस युग को एक बार कहीं फिर देख सकें, समझ सकें और विश्लेषित कर सकें, और शायद भविष्य के लिए कोई एक रास्ता भी हम तैयार कर सकें, किस तरह से हम शांति, सद्भाव, अमन, चैन के माध्यम से, क्योंकि जातीय हिंसा का जो तांडव देखने को मिला, आपने सही कहा कि मानवीय इतिहास में शायद ये एकमात्र दुखद घटना है जहां इस तरह से कत्लेआम किया गया, इतना उत्पीड़न हुआ। तो वो शायद उस समय के उस परिवेश और परिस्थितियों को हम समझ पाएंगे। तो आपसे अनुरोध है कि उसका ई एडिशन आप शेयर करें तो हम सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को। मुझे लगता है सोमा जी शायद अस्वस्थता के कारण नहीं जुड़ सकी हैं। उम्मीद करते हैं आगे किसी और अवसर पर वो हमारे साथ होंगी अपनी बात कहने के लिए। लेकिन पार्टिसिपेंट्स हमारे साथ करीब 231 इस वेबिनार में रजिस्टर्ड हुए थे, और पाकिस्तान से भी, लाहौर और कुछ अन्य जो उनके क्षेत्र है वहाँ से भी रजिस्टर्ड हुए थे। यदि पाकिस्तान से कोई मित्र हमारे साथ में इस समय हो और अपनी बात कहना चाहे, या कोई और मित्र यदि कोई सवाल या उनके ऑब्जर्वेशंस हो, तो आमंत्रित हैं। मृणाल जी और पीयूष राय जी हमारे साथ हैं उन प्रश्नों के बारे में अपनी बात कहने के लिए। जो भी मित्र बात कहना चाहें वो वीडियो ऑन करें, अपना परिचय दें, और क्योंकि इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है, रिकॉर्डिंग हम यूट्यूब पे शेयर करेंगे, तो आपसे अनुरोध है कि अपना नाम बताएं, अपना परिचय दें और अपना सवाल या टिप्पणी जो भी हो आमंत्रित है। जया जी, आप कुछ कहना चाहें? प्रोफेसर जया चक्रवर्ती हमारे यहाँ राजस्थान यूनिवर्सिटी में इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट की प्रोफेसर और डीन रही आर्ट्स फैकल्टी की, और इन वेबिनार्स में कई बार उनकी उपस्थिति रही है। जया जी, यदि आप कुछ कहना चाहें, क्योंकि आप खुद साहित्य के विद्यार्थी हैं। जी।
मेरा क्वेश्चन भानावत सर, डॉक्टर पीयूष एंड डॉक्टर मृणाल दोनों से, उनमें से कोई भी जवाब दे सके।
जी।
लिटरल हिस्ट्री एंड हिस्टोरिकल लिटरेचर, आप दोनों में किसको इम्पोर्टेंस देते हैं? इफ सो, हाउ एंड व्हाई?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question once again?
Literal history and historical literature, आप इन दोनों में से किसको इम्पोर्टेंट मानते हैं? इफ सो, हाउ एंड व्हाई?
मैम, मैं एक एनालॉजी दूं?
यस प्लीज।
आप रसगुल्ला और गुलाब जामुन, गरम रसगुल्ला और स्पॉन्जी गुलाब जामुन, इसमें किसको ज्यादा आप पसंद करोगे? The question is something like this.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. It's a catch-22.
Now let me explain. If I want to engage with that for my heart, then वो लिटरेचर को मैं जाऊंगा. If I want to engage for my head, I want to know the fact. फैक्टिसिटी के और अगर मैं जाऊं या तो फिर जानना चाहूं तो मैं हिस्ट्री की ओर जाऊंगा. तो मेरा आंख रहेगा कि ये इस साल में घटा था, ये आदमी था, whether that आदमी एक्चुअली था या नहीं था, राइट? सो उसमें जाएगा. अगर मैं लिटरेचर की ओर जाऊंगा तो मेरा हार्ट ज्यादा काम करेगा, मैं उसकी पीड़ा को ज्यादा तवज्जो दूंगा, ना कि उसके नाम क्या है, unless that name also has some significance, otherwise not, right? So ये difference, right? It will depend on how do I want to engage with this area, this domain.
वेल प्रोफेसर चैटर्जी, चूंकि आपने सारे एरियाज कवर किया, बुक्स, फिल्म्स, आर्ट, म्यूजिक, so you must have collated your information both from literal history and historical literature.
Yes, but in this case, ma'am,
Yes.
My focus primarily was on literature and that area, literature and literature turned into films, or films as a separate genre. I mean, that area. How is that been portrayed?
Literal history.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I focus on
Okay.
मृणाल जी, हमारे साथ श्री राशिद इकबाल सिद्दीकी जी हैं, वो भी कुछ कहना चाहते हैं. सिद्दीकी जी.
सर नमस्कार सर. मेरा सवाल सर पीयूष सर से है. पीयूष सर, मैं
अपना परिचय हो.
जी, मैं असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर हूँ एमिटी स्कूल ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन, एमिटी यूनिवर्सिटी झारखंड में. सर सर मेरा सवाल पीयूष सर से है. पीयूष सर नमस्कार. सर मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ आ रही है, बोलिए. अपना वीडियो ऑन कर लीजिए ना.
सर वीडियो ऑन कर रहा हूँ. सर मेरा सवाल ये है पीयूष सर कि जिस तरह से ये पुराने जो 90s के सिनेमा थे और अभी की जो सिनेमा 2022 की आप देख रहे हैं, एक बहुत जबरदस्त चेंज आया है. सर आपको क्या लगता है कि क्या ये समाज के लिए जो पुरानी फिल्में थी वही अच्छी थी जो अभी फिल्में बन रही है, चाहे वो हर ग्रेड की फिल्में बन रही है, ओटीटी प्लेटफॉर्म पे फिल्में बन रही है, और फिल्म जो है वो समाज का आईना होता है, लेकिन मुझे ये लगता है कि फिल्म में बहुत ऐसी चीजें भी मिश्रित होती चली जा रही है जो शायद समाज के लिए जरूरत नहीं है. तो आपको क्या लगता है सर कि क्या ये फ्यूचर स्कोप इसका क्या है? क्या इसी तरह से फिल्में चलती रहेंगी या फिर कभी आकर के ये फिल्में इस तरह की बंद होगी जो कि बी ग्रेड फिल्में बन रही हैं, जो कि वो फिल्में बन रही हैं जिसको हम समाज के साथ या अपने परिवार के साथ नहीं देख सकते हैं? सर आपकी क्या राय है इसके ऊपर?
वैसे जब हम हिस्ट्री की तरफ जाते हैं, क्या होता है कि और भी बहुत सारे फिल्में हुआ करती थी, हम उसको कन्वीनियंटली भूल जाते हैं कि जब प्यासा मदर इंडिया बन रहा था तब ऐसे आलतू फालतू बहुत मूवीज बन रही थी. अब हिस्ट्री छांट के आपको छलनी में वो दे देता है कि बेस्ट 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. हाँ, ये हो सकता है कि किसी साल में the proportion of good movies is much higher, maybe say 20-25 out of 300, but or maybe 50 out of 300. Sometimes it could be 15-20 like that. But ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब वो हंटर वाली, डाकू हसीना, ऐसे मूवीज 1930s में भी बनती थी, जब अछूत कन्या और वो सब हो रहा था, जब बिमल ये लोग काम कर रहे थे, तब स्टंट मूवी भी बनते थे दारा सिंह के। तो जो हम ये जो ग्रेडेशन है, और बाकी अगर आप देखोगे कि हर दौर में 50 में जैसे गोल्डन एज हम इसीलिए कहते हैं कि प्रोपोर्शनेटली द क्वांटिटी ऑफ सिनेमा, गुड सिनेमा वाज मोर, क्योंकि आप देखिए लिख कौन रहा था, देयर वर राइटर्स एंड पोएट्स कमिंग इनटू द राइटिंग स्पेस, एंड एज आई मेंशन्ड, यू नो, पार्टीशन uprooted many people। वो एक ऑर्सन वेल्स का डायलॉग है फ्रॉम दिस मूवी द थर्ड मैन, जिसमें वो कहते हैं, उनका किरदार ये कहता है कि Italy went through riots, revolutions, and many other things for constant social tussles for 500 years, and you know, gave Rinasa. The Rinasa came out of it, and you know, the great artists and all came out of that movement. And Switzerland had 500 years of undisputed peace, and it gave to the world a cuckoo clock. तो तो ये है, मे भी अभी का समाज इतना कंफर्टेबल हो गया है कि वो माथन नहीं होता है जिससे उस तरह के कहानियां निकले। मतलब डे टू डे लाइफ जितना कॉम्प्लेसेंट बनता जाएगा, आर्ट कहीं ना कहीं वो भी कॉम्प्लेसेंसी में आ जाएगा, जो कि बॉलीवुड के साथ हो रहा है। पर आप इसको फ्लिप करके देखिए, आज बॉलीवुड तो टॉप में है भी नहीं, जो सिनेमा स्ट्रगल कर रही है, जैसे अभी कन्नड़ सिनेमा में देख लीजिए कांतारा, और ये, या फिर तमिल सिनेमा, और अभी तो हाल ही में द लेटेस्ट टोस्ट ऑफ एवरीबॉडी इज दम, द ओडिया फिल्म। तो अब देखो यही है कि हाँ, बॉलीवुड माइट नॉट बी, बॉलीवुड इज वेटिंग फॉर दैट चर्न, बिकॉज राइट नाउ इट इज प्राइमरीली सारे स्टूडियोज हैं, and there is a certain comfort space. Second generation people are making films, people whose primary view of the world is limited between Bandra and Andheri, the suburbs of Bombay. तो वो वही कहानी बोलते हैं। जैसे जब I used to interview, एक बार मनोज कुमार ने बोला था कि मेरी खुद की जमीन छिन गई थी, तो इसीलिए जब मैं उपकार की कहानी बनाया तो I could identify with that. He wanted to enroll into the army, you know. So people like रामानंद सागर के जब घर जल रहा था, उनको एक ही चीज लेके आ सकते थे, अपना स्क्रिप्ट उठा के लेके, आई डिडंट ब्रिंग एनीथिंग एल्स। सो व्हेन पीपल हैव गॉन थ्रू दैट, देयर नैरेटिव्स विल बी लाइक दैट। इसीलिए वही बी.आर. चोपड़ा की मूवीज आप देखिए और रवि चोपड़ा की मूवीज देखिए, तो एक कंफर्ट आ जाता है आर्टिस्ट की लाइफ में। तो परहैप्स यू वांट न्यूअर वॉइसेस टू इमर्ज, एंड दे आर इमर्जिंग। इंडियन सिनेमा रिच स्पेस पे है। हम
थैंक यू सो मच सर, थैंक यू सर।
चलिए, मानस रंजन प्रधान जी भी पूछना चाहते हैं। मानस जी, अपना परिचय दीजिए और आपका सवाल या टिप्पणी।
आए भाई,
हाँ मानस रंजन,
काट दो।
हाँ मानस रंजन जी पूछिए, अपना ऑन कीजिए, आप माइक ऑफ है आपका। मानस रंजन जी, आपका माइक ऑफ है या कनेक्टिविटी की। हाँ,
हेलो,
हाँ जी, हाँ पूछिए आप।
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन पीयूष सर यह है कि अभी बॉलीवुड में जो सिनेमा सब बन रहा है, वो जो ज्यादातर हॉलीवुड से रीमेक है या फिर साउथ से रीमेक है सर। हमारा यहाँ बड़ा बड़ा राइटर है, डायरेक्टर भी है और प्रोड्यूसर भी है, तो सिनेमा क्यों उस टाइप का कंटेंट में नहीं बन रहा है सर, जो हमें चाहिए, ऑडियंस को जो चाहिए?
फिल्म वाले अक्सर ये बोलते हैं हम बना रहे हैं, यही ऑडियंस को चाहिए, लेकिन सबसे मजेदार बात है कि आपने कभी ऑडियंस को पूछा कहानी लिखने से पहले ये चाहिए क्या चाहिए? बट आई थिंक राइट नाउ ऑडियंस इज टेकिंग अ ह्यूज लेसन, और उसका नजर दिख रहा है कि अब मतलब 2 साल की कोविड ने हमारा पूरा व्यूइंग टेस्ट और व्यूइंग पैटर्न चेंज कर दिया है। एंड नाउ पीपल आर लुकिंग फॉर गुड कंटेंट, वो किसी भी लैंग्वेज में आए, वो फिर डब होके ही आ जाता है। तो आई थिंक बॉलीवुड विल बी गोइंग थ्रू वो एक टर्निंग फेज है। जैसे मैंने बोला था ना, हमारे जो टॉप की जो एक्टर्स एक्ट्रेसेस थे सब जब पाकिस्तान चले गए, a whole new crop of talent emerged and these people emerged from nowhere. So I think it is just waiting for the talent to emerge and it will happen. I mean, churn है बॉलीवुड की हिस्ट्री भी आप देखिए, दौर आता है. There is a phase when everything comes. 70s का एक दौर था where पैरेलल सिनेमा ने टेक ऑफ किया, मिडिल सिनेमा ने टेक ऑफ किया. तो आपका और ऑफ कोर्स कमर्शियल सिनेमा में भी बहुत अच्छे डायरेक्टर्स थे लाइक आकाश मेहरा, यश चोपड़ा और मनमोहन देसाई, ये सब. तो वो 80s कहा जाता है one of the worst decade of Hindi cinema when the mafia money came in and there was lot of pressure on actors, the quality went down, the music went down and everything took a back seat. And but I think we are kind of looking at that phase now. If this will pass, the 90s came and again lot of new experiments happened. So this churn is necessary in everything in life, not just cinema.
चलिए, भावना आचार्य भावना आचार्य भी कुछ पूछना चाहती हैं. उन्होंने भी हैंड रेस किया है. उम्मीद है कि वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए नहीं किया है.
नहीं सर, नहीं सर. मेरा सवाल है पीयूष रॉय सर से. काफी बात नहीं हो पाती सर से. सर इज क्वाइट बिजी दीज डेज. सो सर मेरा माय क्वेश्चन, आई हैव अ two-fold question. First is about the name change which happened, which was rampant post partition, post 47. The name change of stars like for example Dilip Kumar and all several Muslim actors tried to change their names to give a Hindu name. So what is your point of view? Was it completely a necessary move, and would it have actually affected their stardom, affected their films if they had not done so? What is your point of view, sir? I just want to know. Meanwhile, Wahida Rahman never changed her name. She was deliberately asked to by, I think, Raj Khosla, but she didn't. She kept her Muslim name, and it didn't change her stardom, I think. But what do you say, sir?
See, there is definitely that reason is there because of एक तो polarization हुआ था उस time में, जिसके लिए the people to survive, and Dilip Kumar, Meena Kumari and all, some of the screen names were given to them before also. It is not, but having that Hindu name kind of, but by the time Wahida Rahman comes in 10 years later, that liberal fabric is kind of established. So by that time you have like many other actors keeping their names. Now, but I have another thesis around this, which is, you see this, the actor and actress are supposed to be forever youthful. And many of these actors, even into their 40s, 50s, when romancing, stars half their age. And the Kumar and Kumari kind of, the eternal bachelor and the eternal spinster is a huge attraction, especially when the cinema is primarily of the romantic genre. और आप देखो 50-60 के दौर में रोमांस का जॉनर में ज्यादा मूवीज बने. तो ये राजेंद्र कुमार, मनोज कुमार देश और दिलीप कुमार, ये सब जो, दिलीप कुमार तो उनका नाम तो खैर देविका रानी ने वो किया था, बट दैट कुमार एंड कुमारी वाज काइंड ऑफ बॉक्स ऑफिस एंगल टू इट. अभी भी अक्षय कुमार का भी नाम अक्षय कुमार नहीं है ना. So that's there, but I think now people are gone beyond that. See, that also shows maturing of narratives. When more and more protagonists happen of all age groups, these things will come here. But of course, in that immediate 5-10 years, there was this thing that having a Muslim name perhaps would have been slightly disadvantageous, not hugely.
Okay. Sir, and
I think Minaj sir is also saying something.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it becomes a fad also. So, for example, जब अमिताभ बच्चन ने ना कान ये करके बाल रखा, you cannot see somebody's ears. Everybody and their uncle, they started doing that kind of hairstyle. 5 साल के बाद मिथुन चक्रवर्ती आया, वो बंदा बिल्कुल यहाँ से उड़ा दिया. सारे बंदे जो है young men and women वो करने लगे. Probably it becomes a fad also. और ये कमबख्त न्यूमरोलॉजी भी आ जाता है. सुनील शेट्टी बंदे ने अपने नाम के अंदर और 2 यू क्या पता नहीं घुसा दिया. Many things, but yes,
but those days are particularly Muslim actors. They changed their names to Hindu names. So there must be some, actually maybe some idea behind that. Maybe their Muslim names might not be accepted in the media. So
No,
but maybe
that was a political decision. But आप देखो इंटरेस्टिंग चीज क्या है, आप कोई भी स्क्रिप्ट उठा के देखिए 50s के दौर का, they were all written in Urdu. I have Devdas ka original script which is actually written in Urdu. So the script is Urdu. So Hindustani, the industry was that way very secular, and it has stayed that way primarily. But of course the box office and the larger market and the acceptance, that initial 5-10 years, because as Minal sir also said that now the nostalgia has come in, and that immediate hatred वो सब नहीं है अभी, पर तब नहीं था. तो I think for greater acceptability it was.
Yes, sir. Sir, and who was the woman in the last slide who was smoking? And which film was that from, sir?
हाँ, तो any guesses?
Sir, no, sir.
She's
Shashi
the
Kapoor's wife,
first lady of Indian cinema, Devika Rani.
Oh, okay, okay. And that's a shot from a film, sir?
On the set.
On the set.
Okay, on the set, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So thank you, sir. This was my question.
चलिए, चैट बॉक्स से मुझे पता चला है कि दीपक गुप्ता अपने साथ हैं जो फिल्म पर पीएचडी कर रहे हैं. तो दीपक गुप्ता यदि कुछ टिप्पणी करना चाहें, यदि वो मेरी आवाज सुन रहे हैं और अभी तक हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, तो नहीं है शायद. चलिए, और कोई मित्र, नहीं तो मैं भावना जी को आमंत्रित करूंगा वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए. कोई और मित्र कहना चाहें?
संजीव सर, आप दोनों स्कॉलर्स को फिर एक बार और बुलाइएगा. थोड़ा ज्यादा समय देकर दोनों स्कॉलर्स को फिर एक बार
बिल्कुल
ज्यादा समय दे करके, ताकि हम इनको और भी सुन सके.
ठीक है, ठीक है. आगे किसी ऐसे ही मौके पर बात करेंगे, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है ना. चलिए, मुझे लगता है कि सवाल जवाब के इस रोचक संवाद के बाद अब हम आमंत्रित करते हैं भावना आचार्य को, जो इस समय मृणाल जी के साथ इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मास कम्युनिकेशन में असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर के रूप में कार्य कर रही हैं, और अभी वो कटक से अपने साथ जुड़ी हैं, ऐसा मुझे मृणाल जी ने बताया. तो भावना आचार्य, देखिए, किसी भी शिक्षक के लिए ये गर्व की बात हो सकती है कि जिस इंस्टीट्यूट से उन्होंने पढ़ाई की हो और वहीं वो एक अध्यापन का दायित्व निर्वहन करने लगे, तो मुझे लगता है ये बहुत ही, और किसी शिक्षक के, मृणाल जी तो खैर मंच शेयर कर ही रहे हैं, लेकिन मुझे भी मौका मिला था 1-2 क्लास इनकी लेने का किसी दौर में. उस समय पिछली बार जब हम जुड़े थे तब आपने बताया था, तो शायद 2 शिक्षक, तो हमें भी गर्व की अनुभूति हो रही है कि जिन बच्चों को पढ़ाया उनके साथ आज हम मंच शेयर कर रहे हैं. तो हमारे इस आयोजन की को कन्वीनर भावना आचार्य से अनुरोध करूंगा कि वो वोट ऑफ थैंक्स प्रपोज करें, इस सूचना के साथ कि हमारी अगली वेबिनार 67th वेबिनार 3 दिसंबर वर्ल्ड डिसेबिलिटी डे है. मृणाल जी से मेरी काफी बातचीत हुई थी इसको लेकर के, तो हमने एक वेबिनार शाम को 6 बजे प्लान किया है, मीडिया एंड डिसेबिलिटी इश्यूज. और इसमें मैंने आमंत्रित किया है सतीश कपूर को, जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म मेकर हैं और वी केयर फिल्म फेस्टिवल ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं. और कुछ साल पहले हमने जयपुर में हमारे डिपार्टमेंट के साथ फेस्टिवल किया था, वो हमारे साथ होंगे. और डॉक्टर मोनिका राव हैं राजस्थान यूनिवर्सिटी में सोशियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में, उनके अंडर में उनका एक स्टूडेंट पीएचडी कर रहे हैं इसी विषय को लेकर के. और एक महेश रिजवानी है जो अपना एक एनजीओ चला रहे हैं दिव्यांगों को उत्थान के लिए. तो इनके साथ हम इस मुद्दे पर बातचीत करेंगे. जो हमारा एक सिस्टम है सोशल मीडिया के थ्रू हम और ईमेल्स के थ्रू आप तक पहुंचते हैं अपनी सारी एक्टिविटीज की जानकारी लेकर के, उसके थ्रू पहुंचेंगे सभी रजिस्टर्ड पार्टिसिपेंट्स को. ये वीडियो हम शेयर करेंगे, वो अपने समय और सुविधा के अनुसार इसको सुन सकते हैं, देख सकते हैं, अपनी टिप्पणी करके हमारा मार्गदर्शन कर सकते हैं. ये जो वैचारिक अभियान हमने शुरू किया है पिछले 2 साल से ऑनलाइन वेबिनार के माध्यम से, इस YouTube चैनल को आप सब्सक्राइब करें, शेयर करें और अपनी टिप्पणी के माध्यम से हमारा और उत्साहवर्धन करें. इसी अपील के साथ भावना आचार्य आमंत्रित हैं वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए, आभार प्रदर्शन के लिए.
थैंक यू सो मच सर. टुडेज आज का जो प्रेजेंटेशन था कंप्लीटली इट वाज ऑन पार्टीशन एंड सिनेमा. So we started with Piyush Roy sir's presentation, which was vividly on cinema and how it came to being, especially the Hindi cinema and how it was influenced और कैसा वो बहुत सारे बॉर्डर से कि उस पार से भी बहुत लोग, बहुत लिरिसिस्ट, डायरेक्टर्स, एक्टर्स आके यहाँ पे हिंदी सिनेमा में दे मेड देयर नेम and they made valuable contribution to cinema over the years, and that made Hindi cinema what it is because of that Holocaust, if we must say, and it had a huge impact on creating a kind of cinema which molded Hindi cinema in a particular direction and gave it some meaning. And a lot of films of those times based on Partition were even based out of लिटरेचर. सो लिटरेचर से बहुत कुछ लिया गया था. पीयूष सर ने बहुत बढ़िया प्रेजेंटेशन दिया उस पे. एंड उसके बाद डॉक्टर मृणाल चैटर्जी, आईएमसी ढेंकानाल के रीजनल डायरेक्टर प्रोफेसर, he spoke about the book Inheritance of Memories, which I had minor contribution in writing with him. And and it was a vivid description of how any kind of films, literature, ads, television series, be it fine arts, be it cartoons, and they were taken from the era of like Partition, and how it has influenced these kind of literary devices and these kind of cultural had such an impact on the culture. So it was shown in all kinds of forms of communication. So sir spoke at length on that. So thank you so much, sir. We missed Shoma Chatterjee ma'am's presentation today because of her health, as it was put across by Sanjeev Bhanawat sir. Finally, I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar, which is Sanjeev Bhanawat sir himself, for organizing such a very lively discussion, and which we don't get a chance to actually talk at length with these stalwarts. बात नहीं हो पाती है. So I'm so thankful to sir and his team, and Dr. Usha Soini also, and other members of communication today who made this webinar possible. I would also like to thank all other participants, be it PhD scholars, be it professors, be it our students from IMC Dhenkanal. I would like to thank for their participation and keen observation on this webinar. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. जैसा जया जी ने कहा है, उम्मीद करते हैं पीयूष जी फिर समय निकालेंगे और इस सेशन को आगे बढ़ाएंगे. मृणाल जी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि कभी कोई ऐसा अवसर आए तब सोमा जी को भी हम फिर बुलाएं और किसी मुद्दे पर बात करेंगे.